Welcome to today's AAT virtual town hall. Today I'd like to begin with the acknowledgement of country. I acknowledge that I'm hosting this webinar from the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I also acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various lands on which you are all on today and the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people participating in this webinar. I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging and celebrate the diversity of Aboriginal peoples and their ongoing cultures and connections to the lands and waters of Australia. I now would like to introduce your speakers this morning. We have IPA CEO Andrew Conway and AAT's Chief Accounting Technician Lillette Kaleja. Andrew holds the record of being the youngest CEO of a public entity. Appointed at just 28 years of age in 2009, Andrew has represented Australia at a range of international events, including APEC, G20 and the World Trade Organization summits. Andrew's academic background and qualifications are in commerce, education and commercial law. In 2001, Andrew was awarded the Centenary of Federation Medal throughout the Order of Australia. Andrew was also awarded the 2011 Young Professional of the Year Award and was appointed a Professor of Accounting at Shanghai University of Finance and Economics and is an adjunct professor at Deakin University and Lanzhou University in China. In November 2014, Andrew was announced as one of the AFR Boss Magazine's Young Executives of the Year, and in 2015 was announced as the Young Alumni of the Year of Deakin University and is current Vice Chancellor's Distinguished Fellow. Andrew leads the transformation of the IPA and pioneered the policy development of the landmark Australian Small Business White Paper and has consolidated the IPA's position in global profession through leading the successful acquisition of the Institute of Financial Accountants in the UK to create the IPA Group. These achievements, awards and academic appointments cements Andrew's position as one of Australia's leading and most promising CEOs. Lillette Kaleja is highly regarded in the accounting and bookkeeping fields with a long history of advocating for the profession. Lillette runs her own business, All That Counts, in Sydney, and a leading and award-winning cloud accounting and bookkeeping firm. She has recently joined the IPA Group as the new AAT Chief Accounting Technician. Lillette brings over 25 years of experience in the areas of financial accounting, budgeting, bookkeeping, and management accounting. Just before we do start today, I have some housekeeping to cover first. Before we do, just want to cover your microphones have been muted. This will just reduce the amount of feedback throughout the session. If you do have any questions, please pop them in the chat box below the bottom of the screen. I'll be monitoring these throughout the session and we'll answer them as we go or at the end of the session. So that will be all from me. I'll now hand you over to Andrew and we'll see you at the end of the session. Hope you enjoy.
Well, great. Thanks very much, Marissa, and it's great to be with you all. Good morning, or wherever you're joining us. I associate myself with the acknowledgement of country that Marissa provided, and also it's great to see so many of you on the call. And it's great to be with Lillette. So we've got to play sort of the Zoom double act here. So we'll be doing a bit of a chopping and change as we go through the presentation. But really, this sort of town hall conversation is designed to have that conversation with you, and so we'd encourage you to pose any questions you might have about the technician pathway of the AAT itself, where we're at, some of the technical issues, which I'll be very keen to pass over to Lillette to resolve. But if you have any particular feedback for us, that's really what this session's all about. But Lillette, welcome to you, and it's good to be. There's a lot going on, so there's a lot to talk about, isn't there?
Certainly is. Good morning, everyone. Nice to be here. It's so nice to see people have their videos turned on as well, so I can put faces to names. So thank you. So please don't be shy, put your videos on because it's really good to see the faces. We're living in such a virtual world. It's nice to connect with you all. And as Andrew said, yeah, there's lots to talk about. So please, this is your opportunity to ask us any question. No question is off the table. And if we don't have the answers, we will definitely come back to you.
Absolutely. Good on you, Lillette. So what we might do, I'll share my screen. So we've got some slides to go through. I'm also joined by some other colleagues from the IPA group as well. I've got Catherine Atkinson and Tony Greco. So I think we're all breathing a sigh of relief. So I've got any curly tax questions. Thankfully, Tony's here. Because Tony will be very quick to point out that I'm not a tax expert. He is. But by all means, you've got an opportunity to hear from Tony as well. As we know, we're in the shadows of or the wake of the federal budget as well. So there's a lot going on. For those in Victoria, it's budget day today in Victoria. So we've sort of got an eye on the Victorian Parliament to see what's coming out of there. But obviously all states and territories are having their budgets handed down as well. So welcome to you. I noticed, well, I've got Catherine Cleary on the line, and importantly, Shirley as well. It's good to see you as well. So, and Adam, so thank you very much for joining us. All right, I'll just share my screen now, and just bear with me. I'll bring that up, and we'll get into the presentation. So hopefully you can see that presentation. Let me just go to present. All right. So please yell out if you can't see it, but hopefully you can see the slides now in terms of the presentation. So we'll go through this. We'll try and get through it pretty quickly. There's a lot here. So one thing we've found, I mean, Lillette and I have done a few of these, and we can, or I'm speaking for myself here, I know I can talk. And so we do encourage you to do either post something in the chat or interrupt us at any stage. I'll go through some of the preliminaries, of course, just reminding you around the IPA group. So we talk about the IPA group, but what is it? It really is obviously the Institute of Public Accountants as sort of the parent entity, the board of the IPA, sort of the governing body of the group. We've got, as part of the group, the other brands being the Association of Accounting Technicians, and of course the Institute of Financial Accountants based in the UK. So just again, reinforce the point that when we talk about the IPA group, it's really about these three brands. Some have described it as like the sort of the General Motors model. You might be operating as Vauxhall in the UK and Holden in Australia and GM in the US. So it just depends on which market we're operating in. But it is, that's what we mean by the IPA group. So today our agenda is pretty straightforward. We'll go through where we're at from the group's point of view. We'll look at the team that's supporting you and making sure that your voices are heard. And we're delighted that, you know, it feels like Lillette's always been part of the team, but in a relatively short period of time, the voices of technicians are now being heard in places perhaps that hasn't happened before, which is really fantastic. And we'll talk a bit about that. What have been some of the learnings out of the pandemic, and as we continue to emerge through and hopefully from the pandemic, the notion of knowledge, what the new Certified Accounting Technician program will be, and some changes to the IPA program. Look at elements related to the federal budget, so the particular key touch points around that, and then Lillette's going to talk about the way forward, and then really critically have that open forum for conversation. So hope you will certainly be done within the time that's allocated, and we'll try and soldier on through that agenda. So again, just to point out the team, I did a very brief overview before, but there's obviously Lillette's here with us. We've got Catherine Atkinson, who is our Group Executive Marketing, Member Services and Events. So Catherine's on the line, sitting there with Tony. Tony Greco, General Manager, Technical Policy. We've got Catherine Cleary, who is our Director of New Markets and Alliances and has been working really closely with Lillette and the AAT team to make sure we are providing that support to you. We've got the members of the AAT member advisory group. So we actually have a specific group of members that come together to provide advice through to the IPA about the direction of AAT. So I welcome members of the advisory group today, and also Joe Voigt, who is our member and technical, member of AAT, but also technical and member support, and has been really key in helping us with the development of and writing the content for the Certified Accounting Technician program. So that's sort of a sense as the team that's here and in place supporting you and supporting the technician segment, which is really, really critical. We'll dive in to just the learnings out of the pandemic. And I think there are, from our point of view, sort of 5 key aspects. One has been the sense of the vulnerabilities that have been exposed as both us personally, professionally, and as a community. And the fact that things became very, very fragile very quickly for us, and to some extent still are, so that when we have, you know, concerns around further lockdowns, rates of vaccinations, not, you know, everyone has their own view on vaccinations, but, you know, rate of vaccinations, issues of international travel and international borders, there's this overwhelming sense of fragility that we have to address and acknowledge. That will be with us, I suspect, for some time. But it's been, if you like, one of the positives has been the strong power of community that's emerged. And certainly from a professional point of view, as an organisation, we've seen that. We saw it from whether it was an accounting technician through to one of our members in practice in holding an MBA, running a very large practice. This sense of coming together. We weren't even into the first wave of the pandemic. We still had members asking if we were still running face-to-face National Congress last year. So it was members still wanting to engage. And as we've started to roll out more and more events and build back up the face-to-face events, we're seeing members saying this is exactly the sort of engagement we want to have, just interacting with each other, obviously at 1.5 metre distance, but getting back together. And Lilette, I'm sure in your community, I mean, you're very active in your Chamber of Commerce in the Hills and in your broader professional community. What have you seen, both from the vulnerability piece, but also from the power of community?
I think it's, the acceptance of this is the new way of doing business. It's the new way of living. How do we get through it? What resources are available to us? I think it's just everyone is coming together to try and support each other. No one has, I guess, got out of COVID unscathed. Everyone had some kind of impact, whether it wasn't their business, it was someone in their family. So it's just really one of those things that everyone went through, and things like, yes, your chambers and your networking groups, and more so your accounting associations is a place that you really rely on at that time. So I think, if an association or any kind of association, whether it's industry or business, if they're not going to show their true colours in times of need, then I don't know when they are. And I think, IPA, AAT definitely rose to the occasion. I know throughout COVID and JobKeeper, there was so many, JobKeeper cash flow boost webinars happening, which was just really keeping the AAT community all together and educated. And that was, the fantastic work of Rochelle and Cassandra back then. So, we've got to give credit where credit is due. And that's something we hope to continue doing as well. Let's hope there is no other outbreak and we need a JobKeeper. But I think what we've recognised is that it is critical and it is really important to stay close to your associations.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that we've seen that's reinforced that point is this notion of, imagine where we'd be without digitisation. And I heard someone from Microsoft say that in 10 months, more than sort of 5 years of development's been forced upon us from a digitisation perspective. So, we've all changed the way we operate and the way we work, and both some for the better, most for the better. But there's still that need for direct engagement, which speaks to the notion of trust, because we know that our role as trusted advisors to clients and the role that that technicians have in the community is so important. In many ways, you are the closest professional to the small business, and you're there every day, or you're engaging on a daily, not hourly basis with those small businesses, and they come to you for that trusted advice. And it's a really important aspect, but the trust is a function of knowledge. And so what we need to make sure we're doing is providing you with relevant information in a timely way that's easily digestible, because the last thing you need is sort of a 100-page sort of summary of all the technical changes coming down the line. What you actually need is, right, what's happened, what's changed, what do I need to do about it, and what advice do I need to give to clients? Because the next call that comes through to you will be a client saying, what does this mean for me? So maintaining that currency of knowledge reinforces the trust. And we're very aware of that, which is why I think the range of training that's been rolled out, and certainly the roadshow that's coming up on the 17th and 18th of June, is specifically focused on this very point, the AAT roadshow, because it'll enable you an opportunity to engage with each other, but importantly, hear the very latest from all the way from the top of the ATO through to the practitioner perspective, to say, what does this actually mean for me? So we're just promoting now the AAT roadshow, again, 17th and 18th of June. Keep an eye out for that, because you want to get into that pretty quickly, because that's all online. So it's a chance for you to engage from the comfort of your offices or your homes in really good technical knowledge. That's sort of the end of the advertorial, but it's a really good program. But it was tough, and I'm just giving you a Victorian perspective in terms of the lockdowns. We've used this slide a little bit, but we don't want to necessarily always look back, but I think we need to look at how close the rest of the country came to really difficult times. And from my point of view, based in Victoria, it was very difficult. I think it's helpful for us to be reminded 112 days of direct lockdown, or at least for an hour a day of exercise, walking, or being able to exercise or go 5 kilometres from your home. It was really quite tough. But if there is a good thing to come from it, is a sense that we have re-engaged with our own communities and maybe got some of those jobs done around the house that we've put off for many years. But that novelty wore off pretty quickly. So hopefully we just put faith in the fact that systems and processes are now in place to prevent that, because frankly, from a personal point of view, I know it would be really tough to go through that again. But I think particularly for friends of ours that run small businesses, like, they couldn't take another lockdown, put simply. And it's so many businesses got to the brink. And it was actually the February snap lockdown in Melbourne and Victoria that in actual fact did almost more harm, because it sent people into a significant spiral. So we just hope those snap lockdowns are a thing of the past. But we're emerging from this, and these stats are important to note. The global economic outlook is looking better than any of us would have predicted. There's been an economic rebound, but it's very hard to try and make sense of this. So these are the global indices, but if we look at the Australian market, the Australian stock market, this slide's out of date now, but we've rebounded. In fact, the Australian Stock Exchange, the index is now above where we were at the start of the pandemic. So it has been a very, very, if you like, that V-shaped recovery. It's a question of how sustainable that is, and it's really patchy at the moment. Property prices are still up very high, so businesses that are relying on their LVR for their funding of their business, if their business is secured against their home, for example, their loan, there's still this sort of a sense that market is a bit artificial in terms of how secure that line of finance is. But so far, it's still all upside. So we'll take that while we can. But the market's responded quite well. So it's a real challenge in terms of business confidence. But how do you see your client? I mean, what's the sense of confidence within your client base at the moment?
I think they're all treading very carefully. They're not overspending. Whilst there's lots of government incentives to go out there and spend, I think they're actually thinking, well, cash flow is more important to me now than some tax savings. So, and that's the conversations we're having. Like, it's really about having cash in the bank at the moment. It's not about a short-term tax saving advantage. Yeah. And really, it's all about cash. So they're more confident knowing that this could happen, and they've had now almost 12 months to build up a nice reserve. So yeah, I think, and they've also diversified as well. So if something does happen to infrastructure, with logistics and stuff, they've got something that they can quickly deliver. So it is about diversifying, and it is about having that cash accessible to you as well, and trying to control your costs. So surplus spending is definitely not something that we will see many of my clients, small business clients, do anymore. And hiring, really careful as to who they're hiring, what kind of role it's for, and can that person work from home? Are they flexible? So when you're hiring now, it's almost like, well, if we have to shift back to working from home, do you have that setting available to you as well? So it's unfortunate, but that's the world we live in now. So they're the kind of conversations we're having. It's not negative, it's all positive stuff. It's just knowing, it's being, having that power of knowledge is essential, and working with an advisor on a regular basis.
Yeah, it's a real struggle at the moment. It seems like a tradies market at the moment. I mean, trying to find trades for any task at the moment is really tough. And that's a good sign for the economy. But more broader than that is just what we hear is this notion of just skills shortage of businesses being able to find the right people at the right time, and so that's a real challenge. So it's interesting times, and it's an interesting market to be in. All right, so this notion then of trust. So if we think about the digitization, the power of community, but fundamentally what we operate on as a profession is, of course, this notion of trust, and that is because that our profession, you as practitioners, have knowledge that clients don't have. That does sound elitist, but it's just factual, I think. That clients come to you for that advice and they trust you for it. So our perspective is we need to respect that, we need to build that, and how do we harness that trust position? So one of the ways that we believe that's important to build the trust position is around enhancing and raising the bar on the professionalisation of the technician segment. And what we are launching is the Certified Accounting Technician Program, which will be, if you like, a capstone to your formal study. So if you come through and you've done a Cert 4 or a diploma, we'll provide the Certified Accounting Technician Program to you as your, if you like, your practice program, your practice certificate. And that will raise the bar on standards. We've been working and been monitoring developments out of the TPB as well. Of course, the TPB have got a fair bit to say on continuing professional development requirements. And we'll be launching this in July 2021. The important aspect here for existing members is that this program, in recognition of your ongoing support of the Institute and of AAT, this program will be available to you free of charge. So it's designed entirely online and really at your own pace. And it's a really a very, very strong program, and we're really excited by it. It will look at the technician in place, in practice, and in business are the three segments, and each of those segments is broken down into a further 3 elements. So it's a 9-module program. But Lolette, we think this is a bit of a game. Nothing like this exists in Australia, but we think it's a bit of a game changer, and we're just hoping we're onto something.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely spot on. Look, we cover things like intro to the accounting profession, ethics and standards, professional education, practice essentials, practice security, people, process, tech, and how you grow your business and how you grow it in a digital sense and sustaining your business. So under all those umbrellas, there's lots of other modules under that. So in isolation out there, we've done lots of research. There's lots of stuff out there. You'll find lots of things, but in isolation, and they won't give you the certification at the end of the day, and it won't give you that pathway into IPA, into doing an MBA, all those things if that's on your radar. So if it's not, it's still something that we believe is essential. And we're very excited about it, and working with Joe Voigt, who is writing the content, and I have been busy reviewing it, and it's just backwards and forwards. So there's a lot of work that goes into delivering something like this. So if you want to know what we're actually working on, that's definitely one of those things. And yeah, as Andrew said, bringing it to market on the 1st of July. So keep an eye out for it. But if you know me, I'll make a lot of noise about it.
So that's a really key development for us, and as I said, it's certainly an Australian first, and it's a really key certification that will be in place. In fact, it also, whilst I appreciate this doesn't light up every member, it also provides a sense of global equivalence as well, because the trend globally is around raising the bar with technician certification. And as you may know, we're members of IFAC, the International Federation of Accountants, and IFAC has changed its entire view, where there's this inclusive approach to say, well, the role that the technician plays is fundamental to the accounting process, and we've got to be far more inclusive than perhaps we have been in the past. So I think it's a really key step in that direction, which is really exciting. So this is really, if we think about the pathway that we provide for bookkeepers, effectively from the bookkeeping space through to BAS agent registration, and then beyond, if that's what members want. We provide a range of options. So we have the Monarch pathway, the Monarch Institute pathway that enables you to get the formal qualification, then sequencing into the Certified Accounting Technician program. And then for those members who want to, we then have the bridge across from the CAT into stage 1 of the IPA professional program, or the professional sequence, delivered by Deakin, which is a formal graduate certificate in public accounting. And then again, if members want to, sequencing into stage 2, being the Masters of Business Administration, which is the 6-unit program, which would otherwise be 12 units, but you're given 6 units of credit based on your membership. And then, of course, if a professional practice certificate is what a member wants, that's available as well. Importantly, in that grad cert phase, there's an opportunity, and this is why I think it's particularly important for accounting technicians. You've got your CAT, you've got your BAS agent registration, and you want to add to that as your career progresses, or you want to broaden your scope of practice. The grad cert provides the specialisation for you to undertake the sequence of units to satisfy for registration as a registered tax agent. So it does provide the sequencing and pathway through from BAS agent to tax agent. Again, it's the only professional pathway that will allow you to do that. But again, that's if you want to do it. If you don't want that, and you want to practice as a BAS agent and you've got your practice established, that's what you want to do, we will always, of course, continue to support you in that. But it's just providing the option to you if that's the direction you wanted to travel. So it's just opening that door and making it available to you if that's what you want to do. Just in terms of the IPA program, just to note, there are just the value proposition around it. Again, delivered by Deakin Uni, provides a professional recognition through to the MBA, incredibly flexible, largely online. There's networking facilities and services available, but importantly, it's about experiential learning and then leading to those statutory registrations. So it's sort of a burger with a lot, if you like, but you can take some of those options off depending on what you want to do. So it's very much just choose your own adventure. But it's a really, really impressive program. Some of the detail of what it looks like, the grad cert. We've done something a little different with the stage 1, and that is we are requiring every member, irrespective of what you come into the organisation with, every member that joins and goes into the professional program sequence will be required to do ethics. It's a non-negotiable option, and we think it's an important step. Again, we're the only body that requires that as a starting point. And so it's a really key point of difference for us, if you like. But then I've spoken about the options. You've got the grad cert level. You have clearly the sequences around technical accountings and tax, of course, and the specializations available too. There's general accounting, tax agent specialization, financial services, and the assurance aspect as well. So that provides that pathway. Then into the MBA. The MBA itself actually doesn't touch accounting. The MBA solely focuses on strategic business advice. Which brings us to federal budget and the overview of federal budget. We called it a Game of Thrones budget. Now, I've got to admit, I'm not a Game of Thrones fan. I haven't actually watched it, but I know that the first line in the book is "Winter is coming," and the first episode was called "Winter is coming." But the hard thing, and Tony will well attest to this as will Alette, the hard thing on budget night is to try and find a line that's going to cut through the media. We've got a little bit of a cut through, but the sense was that the budget sort of reflected on the fact that winter was coming to Australia, in the sense that the pandemic was here. Some really stark forecasts from Treasury last year, and we're all looking at that with a great sense of pessimism about what's coming. And in a sense, what this budget showed us was that we largely, to this date, have avoided that significant impact. I mean, it has been massive, but it could have been much worse, I suppose, is what the budget forecast. A deficit that was much better than expected. A deficit position, while still large, better by about $52 billion, which is not a bad better. We'd all like those favourable variances. But really importantly, and I'm interested to see what Tony's thoughts are if you're able to join us, Tony. But this sense that we discussed on budget night, this federal budget doesn't actually have any fiscal repair in it. And what the government is banking on is that we're going to grow the recovery rather than generate some sort of structural reform recovery. Victorian government handing down a budget today increasing taxes. We didn't see any of that from the federal government around tax base and tax mix. What are your thoughts or comments on budget, Tony?
No, thanks, Andrew, and warm welcome to all the AAT members who are now part of the IPA family. Yeah, you're right. There's no fiscal repair, and it's compare that with Vic government to proposing to increase property taxes. There was none of that in the federal budget. In fact, as you said, $52 billion better off than the forecast back in October. So the economy has recovered. And essentially what the message is from Treasury is that they want to lock in that recovery. So $68 billion of extra spend, and I think we all are aware where that extra spend is going, and only $23 billion of extra revenue, and a lot of that is coming out of the mining sector, but plus unemployment being a lot lower than what was budgeted. But you're right, there is no budget repair. There's no tax increases. Just a few things that weren't sent. The SG, the increase to 10%. The fact that there was no mention of that in the budget papers means that that proceeds. So a lot of AAT members look after payroll, so they're going to have to ensure that they budget for that SG increase to 10%, and it will increase unless the government changes. It's one of those legislated, it's already been legislated, so the government has to introduce a bill to stop that train from leaving the station. But 1st of July, what we can tell you is you're going to have to factor in a 10% SG going forward. The other big one because of the payroll, a lot of bookkeepers do payroll, is the 450 threshold for superannuation, ESG. Whilst it's an equity issue, everyone should receive super support from $1 upwards. It also comes with administrative issues. The good thing is we've got time to deal with all those issues. It won't start until the 1st of July 22. So yeah, that's all for me at this point. Thanks, Andrew.
No, thanks, Tony. And Lilette, your sense in terms of the response from clients in terms of the budget. Obviously, some of the lost carryback facilities extended the full expensing, as Tony pointed out, small asset write-off. What was the response, and what's the response been in terms of the budget? I'm just on mute. Sorry, Lilette. Had to be one. We had to have one.
Oh, it had to be me. I just wanted to give Tony the platform he deserved. No background noise. No, look, honestly, it's been a non-event for them because they're just grateful to be, to survive another, to survive the year that they have. These tax, incentives don't really drive my clients. It's not a motivator for them. It is, I guess, anything that they can do where to save tax, but cash flow will always be forefront for them. So they're not going to go out and buy expensive equipment. In some cases where I have, I've seen the P&L and I've seen the net profit is quite high and I know that they've got cash in the bank, I will say to them, you need to go speak to your tax accountant because I really do believe you're going to have you're going to have a tax problem here. So those type of discussions, but that would happen with or without a budget. It would happen with or without COVID. So for us in that aspect, it is definitely business as usual. As there's nothing in here that we haven't seen before. It's just an extension. I think the thing that did come up was and yet it's not legislated and it won't happen until next year if it does, is the 450 scrapping the threshold on the super. That is something that probably trickled all our ears because we are in the payroll space. Yeah. But apart from that, and that does affect small business.
Yes, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, one of the things I've got sort of hot off the press here is the latest small business white paper, which has just been sort of printed up. And in here, actually, there's a lot. So this is for those who aren't as familiar with it. On your behalf, so on members' behalf, we engage with Deakin University and have produced. This is now the third small business white paper with a particular focus this time round on R&D. And the various tax incentives and regimes for business, particularly for SMEs. And so I think there'll be quite a few clients, perhaps of technicians who would be interested in that. Because what we're trying to suggest is some of the reductions in the incentives for SMEs to engage in research and development. They need to be reconsidered by government. And so we've got a few policy options. So when we release this, we'll make sure it's available for people to have a look at. Because in the past, we've taken a view on the small business white paper of being sort of quite broad brush. And almost without exception, not one aspect of the policy recommendations that we've made in the past haven't made their way in some form of policy. So we're quite we've got a pretty good strike rate. But what we'll do is we'll circulate the findings of the small business white paper around. So be particularly interested from the SME point of view as to whether those approaches that are recommended on R&D are going to actually would make it a big benefit. Because the challenge now is, as the country's trying to emerge, now's the time we should be encouraging that sort of that real investment in research and development, which is where we're trying to come from with the policy paper. So we'll make sure we circulate that. I suspect it's probably going to be released and launched within the next few weeks. So again, keep an eye out for that. But again, that's just an example of some of the advocacy we're doing on your behalf. All right, so let's we'll move on from the budget and look at the way forward. So Lilette, I think we've got a few things here around the voice recognition and education, but I might throw to you maybe to walk through some of these aspects of the way forward as we see it.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, I think you've touched on a lot of the stuff. So lots of changes for AAT. And firstly, I just want to thank you all for, staying on this journey with us and embracing the whole IPA group, because trust me, it's only going to keep getting better and better. So the stuff that I've been working on in terms of when we talk about your voice, it is about, being there front and center in a lot of the ATO advisory committees. Example is the BAS Agent Association group, being part of that. And what does that look like? So what do we do there? Is it just a case we sit there for hours? So the last one I attended, we talk about, like the SGC surcharge and how difficult it is for BAS agents to actually lodge those forms on behalf of their clients. So being that voice and really not mincing words and just telling them how difficult it is, and they really need to do something about it and don't give us excuses. We talk about debt and lodgement recovery now, also, how they're going about that, things that we need to be talking to our clients about, the modern business register as well, TPP updates, anything to do with, that affects BAS agents, we go through that, cybersecurity. So there's lots of those things. So we are your voice when it comes to all those different topics. So please, if anyone has anything that they would like to get across to the ATO, contact me directly, contact Andrew or Tony Greco as well, because between Tony and I, we're both representing AAT members. So in terms of, I guess, the TPB Consolidative Forum, Tony will sit there and he will represent AAT members and IPA. He represents the whole IPA group. So we work closely, and Tony will, even just before we got on, he said, Lilette, I've got to talk to you about something. An issue's come up about a technical issue with BAS agent. And so we will work together. So as members, you are very lucky we have someone of Tony's caliber who can also represent us as part of the whole IPA group. So our voice is stronger. So if we're talking about our voice, it's not just mine, it's the whole IPA group. So as BAS agents, we're in a very strong place. After today, I'll also attend the Single Touch Payroll Advisory Group. It's the first session. So this is in planning for STP Stage 2. So I will definitely be sharing the outcome of that. So that will be our first meeting as well. So talking about that and really just trying to hear what everyone's pain points are, so the ATO is aware of it. We talk about your recognition. Well, I guess everything that Andrew went through this morning is all about your recognition. So we're dedicated to continuing educating all AAT members to further, I guess, stretch themselves to be able to provide the service that their clients need for tomorrow, because we know that client expectation is increasing, it's demanding. What they expected from their bookkeeper, say even 2 years ago or 12 months ago prior to COVID, is completely different today. It's a whole new ballgame. So we want to make sure that you are being recognised in the industry for the work you do, but also it's not only just a recognition, it's actually gearing you up and setting you up with those right skills. So hence for the CAP program as well, because that's definitely going to set you apart from any other BAS agent out there in the industry. Your education, the road shows. So we've continued to deliver road shows, whether you've been on them or not. And if you haven't, the last one we did, it is available online to watch. So I will talk you through the roadshow that is happening in June. We have online discussion groups that are happening as well. So I encourage you to get in on those. Again, voice your opinion, because we have Joe Voigt, who runs one, and Eric Olson, they run the online ones. There are face-to-face ones in the Gold Coast as well. So if you're interested in also facilitating one of those online discussion groups, contact me, because what we're trying to do as well is also streamline a lot of that. So we actually give you the information you need to talk about. So everyone is on the same page. Everyone's talking about the same topic. Feedback comes up back to us. So it's definitely a two-way. We might not be on those meetings, but anything you need to raise with us can come back to us. So it's just it's a conduit way of communicating with us directly as well. So I've sat in on a few of those online discussion groups, and I encourage you to do that as well if you haven't. Tech Talks, so Joe runs those as well. No one else does this. This is fantastic stuff. Like, it's from, we say tech talk, but sometimes it could be about, you know, the human element side of your skills, not only the technical side. So I encourage you to also go online and watch some of those recordings, just to also get your CPD points up as well. The newsletter is filled with so much information. We work really hard to bring you that. And I don't know if you've noticed, you know, we put a very long intro in there as well. Sorry to bore you, but it'll always be based on what the topic of the newsletter is, a key element of it. So that's pretty much what we're doing. Your community of support is IPA group. Okay, so I want you to remember that it's not just the AAT. You know that we've launched the professional assist as well. So if you get stuck on a technical question, please utilize a professional assist. You've got 4 credits to use, and that's part of your membership. There's also the Uprise program as well. So if you feel, or someone in your workplace needs to reach out to someone and is not coping. Look, a few weeks ago, I wasn't coping. It was just so much on me that I just reached out to, you know, a few people and said, look, not coping. So there is no shame in that. So contact the Uprise support. All that information will be in the newsletter. And again, if there is anything you would like your association to do to support you more, we are here for it. So that's the way forward. So any questions, please, I can answer them in the Q&A at the end. So the roadshow is, save the dates, please, Thursday, the 17th of June and Friday, the 18th of June. So what we're doing, we are breaking down into 2 days from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Reason being is that we know that everyone is super busy at this time of year. So rather than blocking out a whole day, we've blocked out, you know, a few hours across 2 days. So you can see here we've got the standard stuff, the end of financial year update and must-dos, and Maria Landrelli will be delivering 2 sessions across 2 days, and she will also cover the advanced GST for BAS agents. We know that that was very popular when it was run as an isolated event in the IPA platform. So we're bringing that to you. So there is a bargain there for, as part of, and I think it's $120 for the show for 2 days. So that's pretty good bang for your buck. I've got Andrew Watson. Him and I will be doing a Q&A on, you know, what you need to know for your small business from an ATO perspective. And we have multi-award winner Sarah Lawrence, who is pretty much a BAS agent like us, but she's taken her business to that next level where she markets herself as a CFO business advisor. So she's going to talk to us about how you can all pretty much do the same thing and what her journey has been. So that will be really interesting. I'm excited for that one. Budget highlights and how it affects your clients. Hopefully Mark will do a much better job than I've done today. And I will be delivering something on pricing for wellbeing. Something I'm really passionate about is pricing for, I guess, living the life that you want. So being able to sit here today, take an hour out of your day and not worry that you've lost an hour of billing. Okay, so we're going to talk about how you can achieve those things as well. And we've got workflow management, maximize efficiency. We're still teeing up the speaker for that. But as you can see, it is a packed jam event and you would be crazy not to miss it. So save those dates. You will be getting registration links shortly in the email. I think that's all I have.
Oh, well done. That's great. Well, which neatly brings us to the Q&A session or just open forum. A couple of ways we can do this. Either if you wanted to post something in the chat, feel free to do that. Or if you wanted to raise your hand or unmute yourself, we often find with Zoom sessions that people don't rush to unmute and have a chat, but we're very keen. If you wanted to unmute and raise a question, please feel free, or offer a comment, observation, concern, whatever the case may be. And I know I might, whilst people are just preparing their questions and comments, I know there's some comments around what does it mean in terms of the AAT brand going forward. You know, just making sure, I mean, you've probably got a clear feel that we consider AAT clearly as part of the IPA group. No plans to change the name, no plans to change the brand. You know, will there be changes to look and feel as we sort of bring the organisations closer together? Yes, but the AAT is here to stay. So hopefully that might, I know there's a few questions that came up through the discussion groups and various member forums as well. So hopefully that helps explain. And if there's been any, there's probably no better way to reinforce that than the fact that we've developed the CAT, the Certified Accounting Technician. So that should reinforce the fact that the name will be around for quite some time. So, so are there any questions or comments anyone might have?
There is one question here. It's come directly to me, so I won't say who it is, but I'm a UK certified AAT. This program looks quite different. Will any of my qualifications transfer over?
Well, the short answer is we always take a view that we've got to have a look at each of the qualifications on their merit. Certainly AAT UK, depending on which level that's being done, because there's and I'm sort of preaching to the choir here in terms of the person who's actually done the program with AAT UK, but there's a professional program. There's also the member pathway as well. So we need to look at that. So the very simple response is yes, we're open to look at that in terms of the accreditation pathways and what we can provide recognition of prior learning for. But the CAT itself, it's designed specifically not to be overly cumbersome, so it's not difficult to navigate through, but it's very, very contextual about sort of the Australian practice environment. So, but very happy to explore that conversation with individuals based on their own underpinning quals.
Andrew, I might just jump in there while we're waiting for some more questions, but I just want to reinforce the extent of the reach by being part of the IPA family. Whilst if you go to our website, we do a lot of advocacy, a lot of submissions. A lot of the work may not be directly related to AAT members, what they do day in, day out, but essentially we're about the small business ecosystem. So indirectly, we're helping your clients in all manner of areas like regulation, changes to tax. So whilst AAT members may not see a lot of direct advocacy in relation to their bread and butter, you've got to think about your clients. Your clients are part of the small business environment, and this is the lens that we apply in relation to how we approach all things under review. Having said that, we still, for example, one recent submission was in relation to CPD hours for bookkeepers. We just thought the increasing hours to 120 to equate to a tax agent was just totally inappropriate. So we voiced that on your behalf. Single touch payroll. We were responsible for the staged implementation of STP, just so micros could have more time to introduce the systems. So in the background, that was organised some time ago. And just in relation to single touch payroll version 2, we've been able to push that back to 1st of January, foremost because the software people weren't going to be ready. So again, there's lots of things we do that you may not be aware of, but I just want to reinforce that what Lillette mentioned too. Your two main regulators is the Tax Office and the TPB, and we're overly represented on ATO forums, all the way from the top, the NTLG, all the way down to the BASAG, which Lillette represents the AAT members. And I just want to reinforce, if there are specific issues, they're the forums that we can put your queries to if it's administration of the tax system. So there are ways you can raise those issues and to form part of what we do, how we represent you. But then when it comes to policy changes, that's where Treasury, and it's always the government's, that's the government's job. We can't tell the government what to do. So you might all have an extensive wish list. All we can do is express the views of our members, but we can't guarantee success, but we're there and we always try.
Yeah, and I think the other, thanks for that, Tony. I think the other point, the one that we're monitoring as well is e-invoicing and the impact that will have on the profession. But as you quite rightly point out in single touch payroll, that what we try and, we don't stand in the way of these developments, because it's natural that they unfold as technology takes hold. What we just really try and ask government and regulators to do is just adopt a pragmatic or a practical approach to the implementation, and just understand that, that there are vast numbers of small businesses that still operate on a, on paper base, the shopping bag of receipt. That just happens, and we have to have a process that brings people along that journey and helps educate them. So we're very alive to that. So thanks for that, Tony. A couple of questions that have come through. So Meredith posed the question around what support could we provide to members working towards their BAS agent registration. So we're very keen to explore that as well, Meredith, in particular if there are specific aspects that you need support. Obviously the TPB has its own process. There's obviously the concession for a number of hours of experience. One thing that I'm very keen to explore, and this is probably more of a medium-term project, is what can we do by way of developing a simulator type model for practice, so that the minute you start your studies, whether it's a Cert 4 or a diploma, why couldn't the TPB allow us to run a simulated practice environment where you could actually start your hours of experience from the first day of study, so that when you leave your Cert 4 or your diploma, you're far more advanced than you would otherwise would be trying to find a mentor or trying to find that supervised practice experience. Because we know, like we hear, it's not just hard to find a supervisor, it's really hard for the experienced practitioner to give the time required to provide that really important service. So we're sort of looking at a more of a structural response to how do we encourage people in, and how do we start how do we start the clock earlier effectively to encourage the registration. So we're sort of looking at a range of things. Networking is one of the things we're trying to do, provide that greater support to the BAS agent process and registration. But if there are specific aspects you need support on, happy to explore those.
Yeah, and can I just add to that, Andrew? I think the online discussion groups are really good, are critical. If you are starting out, great to be part of those online discussion groups, because it is an opportunity for you to ask questions as well. And it also makes those that are a lot more experienced be able to give back as well. So it's not about just those that are experienced in learning themselves. Sometimes when we give back, we're learning as well. So I definitely encourage you to go online and look at some of those online discussion groups.
Yeah. And to Ed's question, thank you for that, about already being a fellow. Are you still required to do the CAT? Look, the short answer is no, but we would strongly encourage you. I mean, we're making this available to existing members for free. Post this sort of initial wave, there will be a fee for the CAT program. And we just, fundamentally, we don't want members to miss out. This is really around the practice orientation piece. So if you already established your practice, that's great. But what we're trying to do is encourage people to take out this new certification, so it builds a greater awareness of the important role a technician plays, a certified accounting technician. So we would really encourage, and look, the value we would love people who are fellows, who have been experienced in the game for some time, to be involved in the program, predominantly in the first wave, to give us feedback on the content, importantly, but also to support those who are new to the profession as well. So it helps build that network, because you can share your experiences as you're going through the program. Again, it's designed not to be a burden, and it's self-paced. So it shouldn't be too difficult for us to help find the time. And importantly as well, there's also the verified CPD you'll get for doing it. So you're basically going to get 15, well, could be up to 15 hours. We've got to work out the final number of CPD hours, but you're going to get a good chunk of CPD effectively for free.
Ed, are you nodding because you're going to be involved now? We've just signed you up.
Oh, yeah.
This is a recording. We have proof. We take nods.
It's just recorded for tax reasons.
Yeah.
So Kathy, great that there was some more streamlining and structure for the smaller member operated discussion groups. Yeah. So yeah, and look, we're really keen to see discussion groups get back to face-to-face, but understand there's still some concern and some anxiety about that. So if we can play any role in helping to facilitate the streaming of discussion groups, or if you need web platforms, we're happy to work with you on that. So just reach out. Happy to do whatever we can to support that. And if you want speakers, again, we're sort of, we're here on your dime and time. So, if you need speakers, we've got people to speak at discussion groups. So just reach out. We're happy to line speakers up for you as well, for your discussion groups to come and have a chat. So very happy to do that. On the CAT front, Lilette, did you want to talk about the estimated time frame of completion in terms of how long the CAT program would take?
We're still finalising all that, because we're still writing the content, but there is, well, I would say it's about, anywhere from 12 to 16 hours. Yeah. Yeah, to be fair. So 12 at the lower end.
Yeah, so what we've built it on is so in a similar way, the professional practice program the IPA runs is around that 12 to 15 hour mark as well. So that's sort of the benchmark we've used. So it's not introducing the concept of what a debit is. I mean, that's assumed knowledge.
No, it's not technical at all.
No, it's really about, as you said, your role in your own practice, establishing your practice, the ethical landscape we operate in, and then importantly, the role you have in community. So it's that place, business, and practice focus.
Yeah, and can I just say as well, Andrew, I mean, reviewing the stuff, even after 25 years in practice, there's stuff that I'm reading and go, oh, I didn't know that. Okay, I didn't know this about the profession. I didn't know this about ethics and standards. And so there's so many things that even though we think we know everything, I guarantee you will walk out from every module learning something. And the assessment criteria, there will be an assessment criteria. It's not going to be right or wrong answers. It's just us so we understand that, so we know that you have understood the module. So it's, as I said, no right or wrong answers. That's how we will be treating the assessment criteria.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for that. Are there any other questions? I'm just also conscious of time. So we've got.
Doesn't look like any more questions.
I think that's it.
Well, let me just, in the chat, as I tend to do, I'll post my contact on my mobile number. On the next slide is contact detail. Oh, they're there anyway. Contact details. So look, feel free at any stage to reach out to either Lilette or myself for any matter. If again, if you're wanting to provide some feedback about how we're tracking, or if you hear us say something in the public and go, I think they've got the wrong angle there, very happy to hear from you. So please don't hesitate to reach out at any stage. There's a final question that's come from Kathy around the cost of the Deakin stages. So thank you. So the Deakin, so the IPA program stage 1, a grad cert has 4 units. Okay, so the first unit is the Deakin, is the ethics unit, which is that is $1,200 for that unit, and the GC, the graduate certificate award units, are around in the ballpark of $2,200 a unit. So just be mindful of those. Importantly, though, both the stage 1 and stage 2 units, the grad cert and the MBA units, are all available for fee help or for HECS funding. So because they're formal award. The ethics unit, though, is not. but the other 3 units plus the 6 in the MBA are available for HECS. So I hope that explains it. Well, the fees are broken out on the website for more information, but hopefully that gives some context to it. It's not a cheap proposition, but keeping in mind that we say to members all the time, you are getting a qualification for life. Now we want you to be an AAT, IPA group member for life. That's wonderful. But if circumstances change, you'll always have your formal award as a grad cert or an MBA. So just keep that in mind as a qualification for life. All right. So yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for your mobile number there as well, Lillette. Thanks, Simeon. Great. Again, thank you very much for your time. Thanks, Lillette, as always, for not just your time today, but also your ongoing passion for the technician community. I think it's really great, and we're really fortunate to have you on board. And so thanks for your enthusiasm. And again, everyone, wish you all a very pleasant day. We might hand back at this point to Marissa for the wrap up. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Lillette, for today. That was great. And it's exciting to see the launch of the CAT program coming up. If there's no further questions, feel free to obviously contact us afterwards. We're always happy to reach out and assist where we can. Hope you enjoyed it and hope you all have a great day, and thank you. See you all.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.